Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 129 of Nerd Pod Generations. As always, I am one of your hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Judson. Hello, sir.
Hello, friends and enemies.
You're very St. Patrick's Day already. It's not quite there yet.
No, I do. Well, the hoodie is just because, like, me and Kelly have a 4-leaf clover thing, and so I have to explain it every time I go to Wegmans. They're like, "Oh, are you Irish?" And it's like, I mean, by extension, but that's not really why I have the hoodie.
Is it kind of dumb that that's just a question you're going to get asked? It's like, how many people go out on St. Patrick's Day that are not Irish that are wearing green? Does everyone get asked that question?
Or like 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's like, come on, dude.
I have it for other reasons. I can, you know, me and Kelly joked about how I can always tell them that her family is Irish, and that's why I wear it. I'm like, I don't know that you need. No explanation is going to make them happy aside from, yes, I only eat potatoes and drink Guinness
constantly,
and that's all I know how to do.
Potatoes,
yeah,
too. Yeah. I wear a Mario Kart T-shirt. People keep asking me if I'm from the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah,
I say yes.
Yeah.
Don't I look like Toad?
You're clearly a star child.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Very clearly.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a day, but we are ready. We have a show that we have been putting off and putting off and putting off. It's like Groundhog's Day, but the initial thing never happened.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to relive it anyways.
Exactly.
So it is going to be a Groundhog's Day themed episode. We meant to do this a couple weeks ago, but then things kept coming up. Yeah. And we're doing it now.
Yeah, you know, between nerd stuff and family life and everything, it's just so much came up. I also wanted to say at the top of the show, we rolled a natural 1 on our microphones this week. So we are on the backup microphone. So if things sound a little less crisp or just a little more muddy, that's why, is because we are back to the microphone we used to use, which is a nice enough mic.
And we decided for episode 129 we needed to go a little retro. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, we didn't decide shit.
Yeah, that's right. The mixer decided.
You fucker, you ain't gonna do goddamn shit right now.
Goddamn shit.
You want to have nice audio? Fuck you.
Yeah, no.
Everything is fucking peaking.
So, folks, if this is your first time listening to us, you obviously found us somewhere, but if you want to let your friends know, you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please go back and listen to our back catalog. It's all pure gold. And then go to youtube.com and look up Nerd Pod Generations, because Al has been putting up clips from not only recent shows, but past shows. And let me tell you, I listened to the first episode of the Obi-Wan for the first time since probably we recorded it.
Yeah.
It is pure gold. It's as good as I remember. I was laughing my ass off the entire time.
The one that I kept on hearing, because I would hear little bits as I was slicing it up, and the bit that kept coming back that always made me chuckle was big fire bad, small fire good, big fire bad.
That was a great. Yeah, I got to go back. I got to listen to the remainder.
Terrible shit, man.
It's absolutely terrible. But you know what? Our content was gold.
Yeah, this is the thing, is that...
we took a turd and we shined it up.
Is that when you're presented with garbage, your reaction, because we see this a lot from Disney, kind of doing the thing that NFL teams do when they're playing poorly and the fans start turning on them, and they're like, you're not a real fan if you're not with us when we're at our worst. And it's like, listen... It's not that I'm not with you. It's that you're making terrible shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and just say, yeah, it's great, guys. You're doing amazing. You're not doing amazing.
Which, this is a good segue for a show in the near future we are going to do when superheroes died. And it's going to be the Marvels and Aquaman,
the New Frontier,
Forgotten Kingdom or something like that. Or something like that.
It has some bullshit.
But the Aquaman finally came out on digital, and... You know, it came out at the same time all of these other big movies that are like, if you want to buy us, it's $25. Aquaman was on sale for $12.99. So I was like, I gotta get it then.
No, by the summer, Aquaman is going to be in the $5 bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Like 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
They are going to hope everybody forgets about it, which might have been their plan in the first place.
That could have been.
I haven't watched it yet, but everything I've seen, I'm like, man, you guys didn't want us to see this movie. Yeah, how... Of all the movies that Discovery looked at and said, what can we get a tax break on? How did you look at The Flash and Aquaman and say, nah, these, we got to put these out in theaters? And then you looked at Batgirl and you were like, oh man, set it on fire, get it out of here. Nobody ever needs to see it, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
I don't understand.
Could it have been that much worse than these two?
The only thing I could think of is they were so financially into the Flash and Aquaman far more than Batgirl.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you look at Aquaman and you look at the Flash, it's primarily special effects. So they're probably $250, $300 million movies. Where I think Batgirl, they said, was like $100 million.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything like over the top. So I'm wondering if that's why they canned it.
I'm really curious, especially because it seems to be something that keeps happening as we have more and more trailers these days for movies, and they're CGI focused, and the CGI is not good.
It's dog shit.
And you're just sitting there like, I've heard a lot of CGI people talk about it, and it's like you don't always have enough time or money or resources to get it done in the timeline that they want. And I fully appreciate that, studios. I think it's kind of like EA, how EA will release a game when it's 3/4 of the way done, but it's still a glitchy, horrible mess to actually play. And they'll be like, help us fix our problem. Report the bugs you find. And I'm just sitting here like, when I was a kid and you bought a game, that was it. Yeah. The game was either done or it wasn't done.
It either worked or it was Superman 64. It was one of those two.
You knew it was either going to work or it wasn't. It wasn't like, well, it's not going to work right now, but maybe in a year and a half when they've actually finished the goddamn game. And movies are kind of getting to that point now, but they can't retroactively update it like a video game. So they're just pushing out these movies that aren't done and saying, well, but we're out of time. The audience expects it by now. And it's like, the only reason we expect it by now is because that's when you said you would have it.
Yeah.
If you don't put these timelines on us, or if you say we need more time because the CGI is going to be trash if we put it out now, just communicate that to people and we'll all be like, okay.
Which, this is a good segue to something I wanted to touch on. This isn't my main thing in watching, playing, reading, but the trailer for Borderlands came out.
That was one of the ones I was thinking of.
And it finished filming in 2021.
Really?
And they did reshoots in 2023.
You can tell.
So that's a good example of something that they're really relying on special effects. And I still don't quite get the cast.
I'm baffled by the cast.
What is Cate Blanchett doing?
Why are Cate Blanchett and Kevin Hart in this movie?
Kevin Hart, I can understand. He's a whore that will do pretty much anything. Cate Blanchett's a 2-time Oscar winner.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis, well, she hadn't won her Oscar yet when they filmed this. But, like, at that point, Cate Blanchett's a 2-time Oscar winner, and you're going to do fucking Borderlands?
This is not her cup of tea.
No.
She looks out of place. Like, I could see a Charlize Theron in this role.
Yeah.
But she's doing her best, like, punk rock Furiosa, and I don't
was filming this. She filmed this right before she filmed Tar, where she played the conductor. And you're like, how do you go from fucking Borderlands to Tar?
It makes me wonder if it's going to be a Jeremy Irons and D&D kind of situation of, fuck it, I don't care. We just need money to get on this other project off the ground.
Possibly,
and, is it just going to be bad? Because I got to be honest. I watched the Borderlands trailer and I was like, no part of this sells me.
No.
I'm not sold on any of this.
No.
I wasn't the biggest Borderlands fan. This doesn't feel like Borderlands. The limited amount of time that I've played Borderlands with friends, it never felt like this.
Yeah, no.
This didn't have that kind of look or feel. Borderlands had a very specific look. To say nothing of the fact that if you were going to ever make an animated movie for a video game, Borderlands would be at the top of the list because it has toon shading as part of the style of the game. And I just, this looks like a studio Mad Max.
Yeah.
Like if George Miller is the authentic Mad Max maker, this is like a bunch of people in a studio got together and said, hey, I bet we could make a Mad Max. And Borderlands is basically Mad Max. I look at this and I'm just like, is it going to be bad? I can't sit here and say it is going to be bad. I just have no reason to believe that it is going to be any good.
There's not many movies that have that long a delay. And I know COVID probably came into why it was delayed. But to do reshoots 2 years later never bodes well.
No.
So that's got me a little...
That tells me that you finished the movie, watched it, said, this isn't very good.
Yeah.
Let's wait to put it out. And then certain people had their stars go up a little bit. You have your Jack Blacks, you have Ariana Greenblatt. I thought
she's
it was
the one that played young Ahsoka.
She was in Barbie and Ahsoka. So you have various people whose stars are bringing up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we could publish this with her as one of the leads in it. If she has this kind of stardom right now, and everybody loves Jack Black after Bowser last year, let's do that. Let's push this. And we'll just reshoot it so that she has a bigger role in the movie.
I just don't get the Kevin Hart. See, here's the thing with Kevin Hart. I'm not a big Kevin Hart fan. He's enjoyable in, like, the Jumanji movies, but he's definitely a one-tone.
He's playing the straight guy
which
here.
Doesn't make
That's
sense.
Not what he should
and he's
be
not
doing.
An action hero. He's 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
You're not an action hero, dude.
No. And if there was an ongoing joke where they make him seem bigger than he is,
yes,
that would be funny. But that's not what's happening. It seems like he's supposed to be this earnest The Rock type.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is the guy you get to play against The Rock, popularly, because The Rock needs something else to add to his rockness.
And it is very much the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito thing from Twins.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what you have, and you're right. When you put him next to Cate Blanchett, it's like...
So is Cate Blanchett going to do all your comedic heavy lifting, and Kevin Hart is going to be one of your action leads?
Well,
or is Jack Black going to be doing all the comedic heavy lifting?
Jack Black is Claptrap, Claptrap is the comic relief in the games, but then also the Ariana, I can't remember Greenblatt. She's also, her character was also comic relief in the games. And so it's like, those two are obviously the comic relief, but...
So that means Cate Blanchett is going to carry the action?
I think they have her set up to be like the Sigourney Weaver of this movie.
I don't know, man. I'm not... I know she's a great actress. I know Jeremy Irons is a great actor. I know there's a lot of people that have been great actors that have then gone on to be in...
Ben Kingsley.
Terrible. Blood Rain,
head scratcher.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people have been good actors and then been in... What is it, Thomas W.S. Anderson or whatever
Uwe Boll.
Yeah, like there's a lot of bad movies out there that star good actors.
Oh yeah, Thomas Anderson just did what was it, the Monster Hunter one, which was so bad.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
It was so fucking bad.
That they find people, they put them in these movies. They're terrible. They are incredibly niche to one audience. This has big early 2000s video game movie.
Oh,
remember before when video game movies was a shoo-in that they were going to be bad.
Yeah.
This feels closer to that.
Like, I never thought a Borderlands trailer that I know stars Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis, who I love both of them to death. And the thing I'd be excited more to hear about is that they're starting pre-production on Uncharted 2. It's like, I shouldn't think that, because we both had the same take on Uncharted, where it's like, it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad.
It wasn't as bad as a lot of past ones.
And I thought maybe the Borderlands movie would have something, but I'm like, honestly, I could give a shit.
No, this doesn't look very good. And
doesn't look good at all.
This is a Sony production too, right?
Yeah.
And
which the funny thing, I was watching a video and they took that clip from It's Always Sunny where Charlie was the wild card. And they had Dennis and Mac, and one said Disney, one said Marvel, and Charlie said Sony.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why are you doing?" He goes, and just playing down like he's
dumb.
He is
going crazy. We're talking about you.
Yeah. And that's fucking Sony right now. They are out of their mind, except for when they allow people to do animated movies like Spider-Verse. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Everything else they make is pure dog shit.
Well, and I really want to know what the actual production side of Spider-Verse has been like. Like, how often have they been getting notes from Amy Pascal and Avi Arad? Because they ruin things.
Yeah, they terribly.
Madam Web stinks of Pascal and Arad.
Yeah.
Just stinks of it. And Craven does too. Right down the road here. Ariana DeBose in the Craven movie. Why is she in this? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Who could say? I don't know. I don't get it. Is it just money? Did you really think the script was something special?
Yeah.
What did your agent tell you to get you in this movie? Because I'm going to tell you straight up, this is trash.
Yeah.
And I very much worry that Borderlands is in that camp.
I believe it. Yeah. I believe it. All right, so folks, that was the start of what we've been watching, playing, reading.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into the meat of the matter.
I want to tap on the main thing I wanted to talk about is I've been watching the Marvel movies again with my son. We made it through phase 1.
Wow.
Which, Iron Man 2, I got to admit, I still really like the beginning, and I like how they first introduced Whiplash. I fell asleep halfway through.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this really isn't good.
It's the moment that I will always look back on is when I saw it with a bunch of teenagers. And there was a junior in high school, and we get to the moment where he has to make a new element. And the teenager in high school was like, That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
And it's just, this is not a good movie, Disney.
This
is not a good one. I know this is before Disney. This is just Paramount. But, like, this is not good.
It is not good at all.
This is not good.
And then we watched The Avengers.
Yes.
So...
And you don't have the warm fuzzies that I do.
Well, here's the thing about the warm fuzzies. And when was the last time you watched Avengers?
Last time I watched Avengers was probably in the lead up to Endgame.
Okay, so it's been a while.
It's been a few years.
There are two glaring things that really jumped out at me. Because I think it's been even before that that I've seen it. So it's been a good 5 years.
Loki's plan makes no fucking sense.
Well, that is just a given.
Yeah.
Both Captain America and Hawkeye's costumes are fucking stupid.
Hawkeye, I will tolerate. The Cap costume is terrible. It is terrible.
You rewatch it again. The Hawkeye one is ridiculous. Especially when you look at the very next time you see these characters, which Captain America, you see him in The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And the costume is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So he starts with a great costume in the first Captain America, goes with a great one after Avengers, but the Avengers one is fucking terrible. Stupid. And then the Hawkeye one is just, it's so weirdly cut with the shirtless, and it's like got the points at the shoulders, and it's like...
Well, that's because, this is why I like it, is because it's very much based on the Ultimate Comics costume.
Yes, but it doesn't work for real.
See, I've always said, I get it, you don't have the bravery or courage to be a real, king in this situation. Give the man a cowl. This man should be wearing a purple cowl.
But like even his outfit he wore in Age of Ultron was kind of cool.
It was okay.
It was better than...
I never understood, like, he has this sash in the front of his costume.
Yeah, the sash I didn't get.
I don't get that. I don't mind, like, the jackety look. But I also think that the first one is... It's not quite the right purple. It needs to be more of a violet than what they're willing. They're like, we'll give you magenta. We'll give you like this mauve. And I'm like, you guys, if you're not going to do Hawkeye, don't do Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have the guts to actually do Hawkeye, don't do Hawkeye.
Yeah.
You could do so many. There's so many S.H.I.E.L.D. agents you could do instead if you don't have the guts to actually do this character. But that's always been Marvel, is that they just don't have the... I don't know why they did Hawkeye. I've never known why they did Hawkeye. Because if it was me, of course I choose Hawkeye. But I also use him completely differently.
And it would have made more sense if they had planned the West Coast Avengers spinoff. Yeah. That it would make sense to do him and make him a primary character of the OGs. Because then it's like, well, we want to spin him off, so everyone's got to get used to him.
How many conversations do you think Disney has had with Jeremy Renner vis-a-vis the West Coast Avengers?
Probably zero.
You don't think so?
I would bet Jeremy Renner doesn't even know what the West Coast Avengers is.
I wouldn't be surprised if Disney at some point was begging Jeremy Renner, with how bad things have been going recently, to try and have him be the lead of a West Coast Avengers show.
The problem is now, ever since he's gotten his injury, I know he's coming back from it now, but he's still not like...
He's still not 100%.
No, so
that means that's just one more reason that... Because listen, they neutered Hawkeye. Yeah, Hawkeye used to be this badass. He was so cool. He was one of the younger guys on the team. He just said what he thought. And with Tony Stark, you no longer need a second character to do that. So now what is Hawkeye going to do? He's just going to be this old man that is kind of a grump and nobody takes seriously. What's the point of this? But then he would transition so well in that role into the man in the chair, Nick Fury type, who just stands in a room with his arms crossed, looking at a big screen, saying, "Oh, this isn't good. What's he doing here? He's supposed to be blank." And it's like, Hawkeye for me, the closest they ever got was Civil War. That was Hawkeye.
That was cool.
That especially when he's in jail and he's just yelling at Stark. That's fucking Hawkeye. Yeah. And or when he confronts the Vision and electrocutes him and starts going because the Vision is like, "I'm going to kill you." And he's like, "Okay, we got to go." It's like, that's Hawkeye.
That's Hawkeye.
That's Hawkeye.
Awesome.
And then punching him twice in the head and being like, "Ow." Like, that's fucking Hawkeye. Yeah. Go on. What was your other point?
So my other big thing is the direction of this film was so fucking shitty. The Joss Whedon effect of it. Yeah. With the spinning camera angles, and it's like, I'm watching it going, this guy was so full of himself. And I think the thing was, the performances were so strong, especially from Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo. Like, I would love for them to have made an Iron Man Hulk movie with
I'm
just
amazed
the two
they
of them.
Never made that happen.
Because they were so great together.
It's unreal that Marvel never cashed in that poker chip. It's so dumb to me.
And they played up, not only in this movie, but in future movies, the like personal relationship between Tony and Bruce, seeing as they're the two smartest ones of the Avengers.
And that was something that was unique to this universe. That's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Tony and Bruce being best friends, that's not a thing. But also the Hulk is usually not one to let Bruce out and just kind of wander around and do his own thing. So, no, I agree. They should have done literally anything with that.
But like when you're watching it, it's like when I first saw it, and when most people first see it, it's such an awe-inspiring thing just to see all these characters together and whatnot. That this, once again, it's been quite a while since I've watched it, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, it's just the direction was not good.
Well, you think about it, Joss Whedon and Michael Bay are much closer than anybody would have said back in the early 2000s when they were both at their height. People would have been like, oh, no, Joss Whedon does this and Michael Bay does this. They're shockingly close in terms of their style.
They got that way. The funny part is prior to Joss Whedon really being the super director with Marvel, if you go back and watch Firefly and Serenity and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all this, it's well done, but it's done by somebody you could tell has, a little bit of humility.
Yeah.
But then you watch his Marvel movies and you're like, and then especially the Justice League, and you're like, Jesus, this guy's
Justice League is especially
way too
bad.
seriously. Yeah,
Justice League, you can really tell that Joss Whedon was like, I was brought on to save this movie, and that's his entire look at the entire movie is I'm here to save it.
But I think the Avengers went right to his head. It really did. After Avengers, he's like,
after Avengers,
I'm the
at
best.
Least after,
I'm an auteur, and
I remember watching Age of Ultron. And you remember that summer was the same summer that he released his Backyard, Much Ado About Nothing. And everybody was like, ooh, the auteur, Joss Whedon, look at what he does. He just gets his friends together in the backyard and they perform something amazing. Oh, it's so cool. And then you go to Age of Ultron and you're like, oh, this sucks donkey dick. This is terrible. And everybody's like, oh, it's because Disney told him to put too many things in. If they had left him alone, he would have been able to finish it right. I don't know about that, guys.
Yeah, I don't know about it.
I don't know whose idea it was to have the Black Widow refer to herself as a monster because she was forced to have a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Not great to compare yourself to the Hulk because you were a victim of a hysterectomy. Yeah. Not great.
And whose idea was it to kill Quicksilver? In his only appearance in the MCU? It's like, he's kind of a major character that I've loved throughout the decades in comic books, and you're going to kill him off in one appearance.
And they didn't even really get him right. Like,
no, not even close.
And it took them so many years to get Scarlet Witch right. They didn't get that right until, I would say, Infinity War was when they finally really started getting it right. And even then, it was mostly around her relationship with Vision, which means that they're still not getting it right because she still isn't able to stand as a singular character. It's all about her relationship with this other character that makes you think like, oh, this is the comic book character that I love.
Yeah.
No, because if you put her in a vacuum, she's not the comic book character. It's not really until WandaVision that we get to a point where we're like, okay, so it is the Scarlet Witch, and then they kill her off in the next movie she's in. Yeah. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going? Like, who's planning all this shit?
And like, so here's my take on Marvel. I'm gonna say that the earlier movies have the same issues as the newer ones. The big difference is the actors were so perfectly cast and so well, and they did so well with the material, and they were so likable that it kind of made things...
Yeah.
And especially when you hit the Disney stage. Like you were saying, like if you look at the original Iron Man, original Captain America, those were different, seemingly toned movies.
Yeah.
But then when you got to the Disney side, you start to see the trend, but the actors, we loved them so much, and they did such a great job that they kind of got away with it.
Yeah.
And then when you get to this new generation, it's like... Okay.
Well, you have this break point. For me, it's Iron Man 3 because that is when Disney took over.
That's what my son wants to watch next. Which technically, it's kind of the next one you should see after Avengers.
But that was the one I remember going to and just being like, this feels different. Like that and Thor the Dark Thor. That was where the changeover really happened. And Thor the Dark Thor was just Disney doing like a dry run on Star Wars, because that was before Force Awakens had come out. And they were like, this is what a Disney Star Wars looks like. Oh, it's Thor, but it's Star Wars. And I just remember coming out of Iron Man 3 and being like, something feels different. Looking back on it, it was the Mandarin. The Mandarin came in with everything we wanted. Great actor, great look. Seemed like it was coming straight out of the comic. And then they do this turn that completely undermines all of that.
Yep.
And suddenly all those things are played as a joke. And whereas Whiplash was done badly by the end of the movie, the tone at least was solid throughout.
Oh yeah, the opening of that movie with him in Russia and his dad dying was so well done. Like Mickey Rourke, I was like, God damn, I forgot how good this was. And then it was so dark and dirty and gritty. It was awesome.
When you put him in an Iron Man armor, you're like, this is stupid, but he's still fundamentally the same character. There were so many elements of so many Marvel movies afterwards where especially the villain is just this blah, nothing garbage. I'm reminded of Yellow Jacket and how stupid and dumb that whole fiasco was, to the point where they brought in MODOK, arguably the most ridiculous, stupid character in Marvel's pantheon. And even then, all of us were like, man, you can't even do MODOK right. Yeah. Like, how bad do you have to be at what you do to take MODOK, a literal giant head with appendages floating through the air, and do it so badly that everybody is like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
How?
But I think you nailed it on the head. It's the villains they fucked up the Mandarin.
Yep.
And then Thor the Dark World, they fucked up the Dark Elves and Malachi.
Yep.
And Curse. They fucked that all up. Then you go to, Guardians, I think, was the outlier of Phase 2.
I would actually argue with you on this. I think Winter Soldier, if you take the villain as Bucky, they do a good job. But Bucky's not the villain of that movie. Alexander Pierce is the villain of that movie. And he's not amazing as a villain. He's just kind of okay. He's just okay. Yeah. The real reason we're watching it, but this is what I'm building to. The real reason we watch that is for that relationship with Cap and Bucky. Yes. When we get to Guardians, you look at Ronan and everybody kind of says, this is fine. Except if you know the comics, this Ronan sucks donkey dick. This is so bad. Compared to the Accuser, this is the Accuser. This is the Accuser. This, no. I say no. And Novas, they're right in that same camp.
Novas, they fucked up. Well, that's the one big problem Guardians had. Yeah. They fucked up the Nova Corps so goddamn bad.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how do you not introduce
like, what's funny to me is that in one sense, you could argue like, oh, they needed to take out the space police, so the Guardians have to become the space police. I guess, but that all happens canonically after Guardians 1 and 2. In Guardians 1 and 2, the Nova Corps is still around and thriving. Yeah. So, what the fuck? What is going on here exactly? And then you go to Age of Ultron. Bad. Oh my God. Bad. Bad casting, bad writing, bad decisions.
And it's like, Ultron was such an awesome character.
He's so amazing.
It's like, you had it. You picked the right bad guy. You just fucked it up.
And I still say when they cast James Spader, that was the death knell. Like, I knew it was going to be bad when they said that Tony was going to create Ultron instead of Hank Pym. I knew it was going to be bad. And I can't help but wonder if there's any little fresh newbie nerds out there that have only watched the movies who are like, man, it's weird that Ant-Man's helmet looks a lot like Ultron's head, isn't it? That's weird, right? Yeah. Has anybody noticed that? Oh.
I wonder why.
Wonder what that could be. But like,
and especially they had introduced at that point. No, Ant-Man
hadn't been introduced.
They came out after.
We have to do Alfred rewrites the Marvel Universe. Yeah. Because I would have this be an entirely different movie that springboards into Ant-Man, and Ant-Man is suddenly about something completely different, and it just uses Age of Ultron as a chance to ramp up speed. And I'll give it away. My way to fix Ant-Man is you get to the end of Ant-Man, and Yellow Jacket is revealed to be Hank Pym. And so the whole time we've known Hank Pym, he's been on this dangerous walk where nobody knows what's going on with Hank. He just goes down into his study sometimes for hours, and then he comes out with these weird new inventions. no. No. And I would also recast he's not 180 years old. No offense, Michael Douglas. But I would have Lucy Liu as the Wasp and Matthew Broderick as Hank Pym.
That'd be interesting.
And man, god damn it, Marvel. How did you fuck this up?
I know. I got us down that tangent. Okay, so I will keep you updated with each new one we watch. Like I said, we are unfortunately going to be watching Iron Man 3 next, which will happen during this week. I know.
Good luck.
And it's like the sad thing is a lot of these movies, like even Age of Ultron, it has moments that I really like.
Yeah.
But as a whole, you're like, man.
I like the scene in Korea in Age of Ultron. It's one of the very few moments I genuinely like in that movie is when they have to go to Korea to try and stop Ultron from creating the Vision.
Yes.
I like that scene. I think it's a really good, strong scene that has some great Cap moments, some great Black Widow moments, some great Hawkeye moments. You don't have Iron Man and the Hulk there to kind of throw the power ranks out. It's great.
Yeah.
It's just three humans trying to stop a supervillain.
I also really like the party.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to lift Thor's hand. I mean, that, if you're going to do, like, a lighthearted comic thing, and then I even like the, like, kind of intro to Ultron where he comes out all deformed.
That's not bad.
And then it just all went downhill.
Yeah, then it's a slippery slope downhill. From Claw talking about his mixtape to I
fucking love Claw, man. Why they haven't used it? They used him so sparingly in the 2 movies he was in, and they fucking killed him
so badly too.
And he was so good. Like if you watch Wakanda, if you watch the first Black Panther, you're like, he's so awesome as Claw. Fucking keep him.
I will never get over their terrible use of Baron Strucker. Where they have this whole lead-in.
It was the dumbest.
With the post-credit scene where it's like, oh, Baron Strucker has the Mind Stone. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh, shit. Yeah. Nothing will happen.
He's the comic relief saying, we will never give up. So we're going to give up. And it's like, oh, why would you fucking do that?
Why are you doing
this? They don't respect the canon.
It's like when Tony shoots everybody in the room. And he's like, are we happy? And one of the guys is like, no, I'm not happy. It's like, I hate this.
I know.
I hate this so much. And I can never get over how bad it is.
Can't either.
Because this is what they put in stone.
Yeah.
You know, this is what they carved into the stone, and they were like, oh, yeah, this is fine. It's good enough. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, man, this is what I have to show people, and then I have to sit there for the next 100 years and explain, okay, here are the parts that are okay. Here's why it's not good.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it, man.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't even gotten to the point where I have to square the circle of Homecoming with my own child. It honestly keeps me up at night.
That's going to be a harder discussion than the Birds and the Bees.
I don't know how I'm going to deal with it.
You're going to have an easier time explaining sex than Homecoming.
I am planning it like one plans to build a house.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I got to lay down the right foundation. I got to do this first.
See, because you're going to have the same problem I had with Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi, to where you're going to be like, these are terrible movies, but I know when my child watches them, no matter what I say, they're going to love it.
No, I'm going to be in the place that you would be if you showed Ethan the 09 Star Trek. That's the hell that I'll be in. Or even better, Into Darkness. If you show Ethan Into Darkness, tell me you're not going to be pulling your own hair out while Ethan sits there and is like, oh, it's so shiny and cool and I love it. And
See, I'm hoping that by the time I show him that abomination, I'll have already shown him RoboCop, and he's like, "Why is RoboCop coming after James Kirk?" It's
no, that's never going to happen, dude.
I know.
See, this is my thing. How do I say to my 6-year-old, "I love Spider-Man. Let's watch a bunch of Spider-Man stuff," and then they come to me with Homecoming, and they're like, "I want to watch this one." What am I supposed to tell them?
Yeah,
you're not ready. You're not ready for it.
See, I have the benefit of, and you kind of do too, with all the Star Wars like animated series and whatnot, that I'm going to show when Ethan's finally, because I still think Star Trek is getting to a point where he can watch it. I have to show him all of the 11 OG movies.
Mm-hmm.
I have to show him the next gen. I'll show him a few episodes of the original series. I don't think I need to get too deep into that because I think the movies will do enough to introduce those characters.
It's like Doctor Who. We've kind of moved on to the second phase.
So I'll show him Next Generation and then Voyager and like all the great ones, and then I will show him Strange New Worlds, And then I'll show him the J.J. Abrams. And by that point, he'll be so inoculated with good Star Trek, he'll be like, what is this dog shit?
This is what I'm saying when I say I want to lay down the foundation. Is I want to be like, okay, so these are the Spider-Man cartoons we're going to watch, and then we're going to watch these Spider-Man movies, and then we're going to watch these Spider-Man movies, and we're going to indoctrinate you under so much various Spider-Man stuff. We'll read comics, we'll do the whole thing. Yeah. And by the time you watch Homecoming, I won't have to tell you shit, because you'll be sitting there telling me things that are stupid about it that I haven't thought of.
I hope we're at like episode 500 of our podcast and your child, boy or girl, will sit in with us and just have the Al Judson rant, but in a smaller voice.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is great.
Why is Spider-Man driving a car? You know, I've been asking people that for literally 15 years and no one will give me an answer.
Why did Spider-Man hit this alien technology with a hammer?
Why did Spider-Man knock himself out when trying to jump through the roof of a truck? Why did Spider-Man get stuck in a vault that when he can lift over 5 tons? Why did Spider-man do this?
I pulled you down a rant. I didn't realize I was pulling you down.
Oh, you knew. I kind of
knew. All right, so let's go on to what have you been watching.
Yes, sir. Now that we are 35 minutes into the show.
Let's
go. Unfortunately, friends and enemies, because we're using
peaks and valleys, baby. Peaks and valleys.
Lots of peaking in this episode, so I apologize for the audio quality. So I watched, I mentioned a few weeks ago that I have been going down the Mortal Kombat coil for a little while now. And there's some really good animated movies out of Warner Brothers for Mortal Kombat, which are...
They're really, Netflix,
right? No, they are... they're on Max.
Okay.
And they are out of the same animation studio as the DC movies.
Oh.
Now, with the ones that had come out previously, which were about Scorpion and Liu Kang... I almost called him Q Lang. Liu Kang... they do have a very different style than the DC animated movies, even though it's the same studio, same voice crew and everything. So it's very similar to that. The newest one that they came out with does have the same style as the new DC animated movies.
Okay.
So it's a little different, not in a bad way.
Like the Justice League one we just watched?
Yeah, yeah. So kind of heavy black lines. Everything's a little flatter. There's a little less depth to everything in terms of the color. But this is Mortal Kombat Cage Match, and I bet you can't guess who it's about.
Luke Trang, whatever you say his name.
Q Lang.
Let me guess. Jean-Claude Van Damme's
kinda, yeah. It's Mr. Johnny Cage, played by Joel McHale, who does his voice and all the other animated.
Nice.
And it's a...
That's a perfect voice for...
It's a perfect voice for Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's unreal. It's uncanny, honestly. This is such a weird movie. And it's not weird bad. I give it a B-.
Okay.
Because it's weird in the sense that some things will happen and they don't seem to have a linear arc in terms of why they happen.
Okay.
So one thing happens here and then later on it produces this effect and you're like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense why that would be the case.
Okay.
And there seems to be kind of for a Mortal Kombat movie, there seems to be kind of a general lack of consequences for violence.
Okay.
So sometimes there is, and it's played off as a joke. We have, the usual MacGuffin, 2 people running after the same thing.
Okay.
And then Johnny Cage gets pulled into it. And as a result, he hijacks a tour bus. And the driver of the tour bus just full drives over one of the people trying to get this item. And he just splats them across. And they're like,
that's weird.
And they're like, damn pigeons. And it's like, yes, because you clearly thought this giant explosion of flesh was a pigeon. So at one point, Johnny Cage's assistant, who's definitely not Steve Urkel, he has his hands up over his head, and he gets stabbed by a cultist in his chest with his hands up, and I'm like, so he's dead. Like, there's very few places in this region you could get stabbed on the left side of your body and not have your heartbeat impacted in some way. He doesn't even wince. He's just kind of like fine. He's not even holding it the rest of the movie. At one point he does like a stunt jump, and it's
that's amazing.
It's just like, it doesn't fucking matter. So it's not an A movie, but it is hilarious because the premise of it is beyond anything I've ever seen.
Well, now, is it intentionally goofy?
Yes.
Okay, so it knows that it's...
Yes. Do you know how I know it's intentionally goofy? The villain of this movie is Jennifer Grey.
Oh, that's amazing.
Voiced by Jennifer Grey.
Oh, that's even better.
And so the plot is that Johnny Cage is on this new movie, and the lead, Jennifer, who's only referred to as Jennifer, she's gone missing. And so now Johnny's producer is like, you got to go find her for us. So Johnny goes to her mansion and finds these two women fighting over this scroll. And when he takes the tour bus, he's like, oh yeah, my friend Tom lives in that house over there. He does all of his own stunts, but it's only because of blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's just making all these overt references. It clearly takes place in like 86, 87 by the hair and the style of everything. And we get to the end of the movie, and Jennifer Grey is a minion of Satan. And she's trying to run this cult that has been controlling Hollywood, and there are these demons that have been trapped in Hollywood for the last 400 years, and they just run everything in town. And since they've gotten bored, they've taken up acting and producing and directing. But literally everybody Johnny Cage interacts with is in some way related to this cult.
Oh, that's
and
so
it's all
amazing.
led by the actual Jennifer Grey playing herself as a child of Satan.
So now it makes you wonder, was she their first choice, or did they ask a bunch of famous people?
I honestly had this question.
Okay.
Because when they animated it, there were moments where I was like, is it Jennifer Jason Leigh? Is it Jennifer Grey? It's not Jennifer Connelly. How many other 80s Jennifers can there be? And no, at the end, they're like, yep, stars Jennifer Grey as Jennifer Grey. And I'm like, yep, this might be one of the craziest things, because I've heard of people playing themselves and things. That happens all the fucking time.
Yeah.
I've heard of people playing characters that aren't them, but they just play them like them. So that's The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. I've never heard of someone playing themselves as a fantastic version of themselves since Neil Patrick Harris, who's secretly the villain of the whole goddamn thing. It was so funny and so weird. And I was just like, this isn't great, but it's kind of great. Yeah. It's very bold.
That part alone deserves a grade.
Exactly.
Right
exactly. You're like, okay, all right, okay. And there's not as much Mortal Kombat violence as there is in the other animated movies, which are just chock full of Mortal Kombat violence. And Johnny Cage is in those movies too, and this movie implies that it's linked to those.
Oh, okay.
The issue is that in those movies, which take place way after this movie does, Johnny Cage has no idea what magic is. And it's like, you fought Satan. You saw so much magic 20 years ago, and now in the modern day, quote unquote the modern day, when Lord Raiden comes to claim you for his champions, you're like, oh, I gotta talk to my agent. This is bullshit. These accommodations are terrible, and now I'm on this boat, and what is this craft service, and why are these people in these rubber costumes attacking me? And he just has no idea that it's all real.
Oh, that's amazing.
Even though in this movie he literally fights the god banned from hell or whatever it is. And it's very funny, very tongue-in-cheek.
I gotta see
it. You
man.
have to check it out. I thought of you a lot while watching it. So
I love movies like that.
Mortal Kombat Cage Match on HBO Max now.
I need to watch that.
Yeah.
I need to watch it. I need time to watch it.
Yeah, right. It's only an hour 20 minutes at least.
Oh, that's good.
Goes
and
down
you
quick.
got to thank those animated movies for that too, because
they don't have time or budget to waste.
No.
And that is one of the things I love about the DC movies, is that they are clean. You look at Throne of Atlantis as a plot, there is no fat on that entire movie, but it plays so well and so fun for that.
Well, I mean, the best one, Red Hood. There's no wiggle room in that.
When you're going to have time. If anything, you're like, man, I wish they had more time to do stuff.
Exactly.